Hi everybody, my name is Laura and I'm obsessed with houseplants. I became obsessed with houseplants probably about 6 years ago when I had all of the space in my new house to fill up and I didn't know what to do with that space. I couldn't figure out what kind of artwork I would like, and so I started buying plants. So my goal is to help people find houseplants that they can take care of and feel confident in their green thumb. I don't know if I would say that I have a green thumb. I think that I've just learned the right plants that I can take care of. And I've killed a lot along the way. There's a lot that have survived. So I thought that my first video here would be to show you my oldest houseplants. And these are the ones that I often don't really think about, probably because they're easy to take care of. They're not prone to dying suddenly. And I've just had really good luck with them. So here we go. So my very first houseplant I think that I ever bought was this umbrella plant. And it's also known as a Schefflera plant. And I bought this at Trader Joe's. I bought this when I still lived in an apartment. And it's just done really, really well. It's really easy to take care of. I think it's really beautiful. And you can see that it's kind of growing towards the light. I have a feeling where I have it right now, it's probably not getting enough light, but it also seems to be doing okay. You can see that there's some new growth up here, and it's definitely very bushy. So this plant I almost killed. I left it out in my unheated sunroom and it froze. So it looked terrible. All the leaves were brown, sort of blackened, curling, except for this one little stump. And so I said, what the hell? I guess that I will cut it back and replant that little stump. And I did. And I don't know what branch it was, probably this one back here, but it has really bounced back. It's about maybe 3 years after I killed it. It was much, much bigger before, but I think it's doing pretty well. And I find it to be a pretty low maintenance house plant. I water it maybe once or twice a week. We're in winter here, obviously, so watering a little bit less, and I think it's pretty resilient. Most of my plants I'm pretty careful to not overwater, although I do have a tendency to, as some people say, overlove them. But this one's doing pretty well. And so this is my oldest house plant. It doesn't have a name, but here you go. You can meet that one. I also love cats. So here's my kitten. My next oldest house plant is this jade. That's doing okay. You can see that I put some stakes in it here. It, a couple of months ago, became really, really top heavy. It was definitely bushier, so what I did is I cut it back. You can see that there are some new baby leaves coming out. There's one there, and there's one there. So I cut it back, kind of gave it a little bit more room to breathe, and I staked it. This plant sits in pretty close to a south-facing window. I don't water it too often. I just water it a little bit when I do. But it seems to be doing pretty well. I think that this was a plant that I bought at Home Depot. It was one of the first plants I ever bought. And it was much smaller, also much fuller. But like I said, I had to prune it a little bit. But these plants are pretty easy to take care of. Unfortunately, that little kitten that you saw likes to play with it. And they're pretty poisonous. But she hasn't eaten anything yet. And she's obviously still with us. So jades are some of my favorite plants. There's all different types of varieties with different colorations. This one was pretty basic. Like I said, I think, I bought it at Home Depot. It was maybe $8 or something. I've obviously repotted it in this terracotta pot. I love terracotta pots. So this is my jade. It also doesn't have a name. I don't really name my plants. But I think it's doing pretty well and pretty easy to take care of. So this one we call a Chinese evergreen or aglaonema. And this I also bought at Home Depot. It was one of the first houseplants I ever bought, and I almost never think about this plant. It's easy to take care of. I don't think I've ever overwatered it. I don't think I've ever underwatered it. With all of my plants, if I see any yellow or browning leaves, I cut them off. This one really hasn't been, I think it's beautiful. but it hasn't really been like a diva in any way. So it's pretty full. I've obviously repotted it here into my terracotta pot. And once I did that, it definitely got bigger. I also recently moved it. These plants are well known for being easy to grow in a low light area. I actually had it taking up some prime real estate in a south-facing window, which is maybe why the variegation is so nice here. But I recently moved it to a darker area, and it seems to be doing really well. It fills up the space really nicely, and like I said, it's super easy to take care of. I usually water this plant sparingly, about twice a week, maybe a little less lately just because it's been winter time. But again, I haven't really had any problems either way. I've had a problem with mealybugs with some of my other houseplants. This one, the bad houseplant, is sort of quarantined. I don't think you can see it, but there it is. Yeah, it's beautiful, but it's by itself. And this one was like close enough, but seems to have been unafflicted. So this is my Chinese evergreen. I don't know what variety it is, but we'll call it Miss Pink Spotted Chinese Evergreen. And then this one, I think these are pretty underrated plants here, but this is a rubber tree. It's just a plain old rubber tree. There are different varieties, so it's a type of ficus, and it does have tree-like growth. So, you know, they can get very, very big. This is one that I had probably not in enough light, and it did okay, but I've moved it closer to a west-facing window, and it seems to be doing a lot better. It has some new growth up here on the top. You know, the leaves are really beautiful, really glossy. Sometimes I have some that sort of dry up and curl off on the bottom. But like I said before, with all of my plants, if they look like they need to be pruned, then I prune them a little bit, and they usually are better off for it. But this one doesn't need a ton of water. I usually water this, you know, again, twice a week with my other plants, but not, you know, pretty sparingly. I have it, right, like I said, in a west-facing window, and it seems to be doing pretty well. But it also was doing okay in a pretty dark room. I don't know why I had it there for so long, but I'm glad that I moved it because it's definitely kind of a stunner. I have a variegated one downstairs, but that one was much more difficult to find, much more expensive, but it's also doing really well. So someday we'll talk about that one. And then this is one of my favorite all-time plants. I don't know if I'll be able to show you the whole thing, but this is a string of hearts. This was also one of the very, very, very first plants that I bought. And I bought it at my local garden center, and it was obviously much smaller. And, oh geez, it's all tangled up in itself. So it's probably about 8 feet long. There's nothing really that special about it, you know, aside from the fact that I love how it trails. But it's not a variegated one. Well, I guess there is a little bit of variegation to the leaves here. But, you know, there are some that are sort of ridged with pink that are really beautiful that people love, and I had one and I killed it. This one is actually a succulent. It doesn't need a lot of water. I do have it on my mantle in a south-facing room. It's probably about 6 feet away from the window, but it is a pretty bright space. And like I said, it's about 8 feet long. I have it sort of curled up like this because of that kitten that you saw who likes to play with the dangly things. This one I've taken many cuttings of, and I have them all over my house, not as full or as long as this one. I water it maybe once, maybe twice a week, sometimes not even because it doesn't really need that. And I also fertilize it with my other plants. I'm not really very good about doing that, maybe once or twice a year. But whatever I'm doing seems to be working. You know, like I said, it's really, really full. I don't think I could get it in the frame if I tried. But this is one of my favorite things. I think when I bought this, you know, where it was kind of a baby, it was, I don't know, maybe $15 or so. But like I said, I've taken a lot of cuttings from it, given them away. I've hung them in other places. So I'm really happy with this plant. It's really easy to take care of. So those are my top 5 oldest houseplants. And, I think that because they're so old, that means that they're really easy to take care of. Obviously all plants have their things, but these are ones that I've had really, really good luck with. So if you have any questions, ask me. I'd love to answer them for you. If not, maybe next time we could talk about some of my other plants. So take care. Nice to meet you.